Hi, Rory.
Hey, so I'm just furiously trying to finish some minutes.
That is fair. I'm just having a tidy up of fabric and trying to rationalize sewing things so I know what I have and where it is. Hi, Frankie. Cute rock.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much. Yeah. You want to squeeze on my darling?
Yes, please.
Hi, Zach.
Hello.
God's blood. Amazing.
It's
What?
I like it rough.
I know.
Terrible.
I know.
What, you egg? Stabs you.
I'm so
Anyway, I
sorry.
was just saying to Vina, I'm just furiously trying to finish some notes before story time, so I will look at that.
Yeah, head down and concentrate, my loves.
Carmen.
Carmen's here. Hi, Carmen.
Hello.
Hello.
How y'all doing? What you making, Vina?
I'm not making anything. I'm just trying to like rationalize my fabric and see what I've got and stuff.
A fine ambition.
Yeah, I don't currently have a sewing project on the go. So.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I mean,
Do you
I
want
have
to make-
plenty of things. I just haven't decided what I'm doing next. And knowing what fabric I have, or at least being able to find things and not just my usual method of tidying is just like putting things away, but not in a rational, organized manner. So like things are put away.
No.
I understand this.
You people are dangerous.
I will know where it is. That's fine.
Oh no, everything needs to be labeled in boxes.
No.
Labeled in boxes. Vina, I have a new sewing project for you. I highly recommend that you start making ruffs because it's going to be all the thing.
Post-lockdown life.
Ribbon.
Oh, okay.
Wow, how satisfying.
That doesn't even feel like it would be that complicated.
I think it can't be, you know. I mean, they were making it in Elizabethan times. How hard can it be?
It's true.
They didn't know how to do it.
Hi.
Hi, Bracken. Hi, Bracken.
Hey, Bracken.
Hey, Bracken. Hey, Bracken. Hey, Bracken.
I walked 15 fucking miles today.
What?
Why? Also amazing.
I'm training for the West Highland Way.
Oh shit, of course you are.
Katie and Nick's, and I'm glad I did because they provided me with several different kinds of delicious food.
Oh, that's a good reason to walk anywhere.
Uh-huh.
I actually have like a little nest for you, like a little Easter nest that was from Katie and Nick.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, okay.
I thought you meant like you found a bird nest.
Ferrari.
I took it.
Man.
Jeez.
We didn't get any Easter nests.
No.
Have you not been doing cooking? The two of you are in the same place. Don't pretend like you haven't been eating incredibly well.
I've been eating exceptionally well because Zach is an angel and has been cooking for me. Well, I'm taking this off. It's more constrictive than you might imagine.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been working away like a busy little bee, getting flat 3 habitable for when Martin moves down.
Yeah.
Which has been very fun and nice and quite tiring and time consuming. And so Zach has been like a domestic angel in the home and just plying me with meals when I,
Rock back up.
rock back up at 7:30 at night, or like paint streaked and sweaty.
Not wrong. Yeah.
It's good. It's nice.
Mhm.
It's nice and good. So this evening we had delicious dal of some sort.
Yeah. Miscellaneous.
Beat a bit of dal.
Miscellaneous dal.
It's definitely one of my go-to, especially with like lots of root veg at this time of year, because I've had to learn to cook with root veg. So
Good stuff.
So, yeah.
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 I'm going to have a little bit of a sleep until story time starts.
Got 3 minutes.
Do it 2 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes.
No, if Katie's late, then it's just forever.
That's true.
If Katie doesn't come, you can't start, right?
That
Is
is
that
how
the
it
rule?
works. If Katie
You're
isn't here,
wasting your precious news time debating semantics of whether or not Katie's here and we can start eventually.
That's true. Yeah, you people debate without me. Debate without me.
Not.
because I was talking, we've got a Nick and Kate. Well, we've got a Nick. We were debating whether story time could start if you weren't here.
Ah, this is nice. This is nice. Oh, how nice to have a nap with you all.
I do it every time.
I see why you do it.
Yeah.
It is nice.
Very nice.
I
Snoozy
can't wait
times.
until we can all nap together again.
Just
While
thinking
Frankie's
that.
reading.
I can't wait. I want to read to you all and for everyone to fall asleep in a big pile. Hello? 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 Hello?
A-doom,
A
boom,
sideways
boom, boom,
Katie.
boom, 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 ba-doom, ba-doom, dum, 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 dum,
A-doom,
ba-doom, ba-doom, dum, ba-doom, a-doom, bum, ba-doom, 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 bum, bum, bum,
Ba-da-ba-dee,
bum,
doo-doo,
bum, ba-doom, ba-doom, dum, ba-doom, ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo,
ba-ba-ba-ba,
boom, boom,
ba-da,
boom, bum, bum,
ba-ba-ba.
ba-doom, ba-doom.
Story time.
Story time.
Story time.
Okay,
Oh, I hope
everybody.
someone dances with their cutlery every time.
The cutlery dance. Storytime cutlery dance. Okay, everybody. Okay, everybody. Now I'm going to. No, don't stop the recording. That's not the thing we do now. Mute all. Mute all. Okay, everyone. What have we got for you tonight? More shenanigans, probably. So, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Chapter 3. Zosie. Friday, 16th November. Strike 2, and I'm in again. All it takes is a well-placed blow, and the piñata begins to weaken and split. The mother is the weak link, and with Jan on my side, Annie follows as sweetly as summer follows spring. That lovely child, so young, so bright. I could do great things with such a child, if only her mother were out of the way. But one thing at a time, eh? The mistake now would be to push my advantage too far. The child is still cautious and may still withdraw if I press too hard. And so I'll wait and work on Jan. And to tell the truth, I'm enjoying it. A single mother with a business to run and a young child constantly underfoot. Trust me to become indispensable, to become her confidant, her friend. She needs me. Rosette, with her endless curiosity and her knack for getting into all the wrong places, will give me all the excuse I need. Rosette intrigues me more and more. So small for her age, with that pointed face and widely spaced eyes, she might almost be a kind of cat, scuttling about the floor on her hands and knees, a technique she prefers to walking upright, poking her fingers into holes in the wainscoting, repeatedly opening and closing the kitchen door, or making long and complicated arrangements of small objects on the floor. She must be watched at all times, for although she is usually quite good, she seems to have no sense of danger, and when she becomes upset or frustrated, may sometimes indulge in violent, though often soundless, tantrums, swaying wildly from side to side, sometimes to the point of striking her head against the floor. "What's wrong with her?" I asked Annie. She looked at me warily, as if calculating whether it was safe to tell. "No one really knows," she said. "A doctor saw her once, when she was just a little baby. He said it might be something called cri du chat, but he wasn't sure, and we never went back." Cri du chat. It sounds like a medieval affliction, something brought on by the cry of a cat. "She made this noise, just like a cat. I used to call her the cat baby." She laughed and quickly looked away, almost guiltily, as if just talking about it might be somehow dangerous. "She's all right, really," said Annie. "She's just different, that's all." Different. That word again. Like accident, it seems to hold a special resonance for Annie, something more than its everyday meaning. Certainly she is accident-prone, but I sense that this means something other than pouring paint water into her Wellingtons, or putting slow toast slices into the video player, or poking her fingers into the cheese to make holes for invisible mice. Accidents happen when she's around. Like the Murano dish that I could swear was broken, though now I'm not sure at all. Or the lights that sometimes switch on and off, even when there's no one there. Of course, that might simply be the eccentric wiring of a very old house. I may have imagined the rest. Then again, may and might never made a wrong thing right, as my mother used to say, and I'm not in the habit of imagining things. The past few days have been busy for us. A bustle of cleaning, restructuring, and ordering of stock, with all Jan's copper pans and moulds and ceramics to bring out of storage. In spite of her careful packaging, many of the pans were tarnished and spotted with verdigris, and as I looked after the front of the shop, Jan spent hours in the kitchen, polishing and cleaning until at last every piece was done. "It's only for fun," she kept saying, as if slightly ashamed of her enjoyment, as of some childish habit she should have outgrown. "It's not really serious, Well, it looks serious enough from where I'm standing. No game could be so meticulously planned. She buys only the best couverture from a fair trade supplier down near Marseille and pays for it all in cash. A dozen blocks of each kind to begin with, she says, but I already know from her eager response that a dozen blocks will not be enough. She used to make all her own stock, so she tells me, and though I'll admit I didn't quite believe it at first, the way she has thrown herself back into the business tells me that she was not exaggerating. The process is deft and peculiarly therapeutic to watch. First comes the melting and tempering of the raw couverture, that process which enables it to leave its crystalline state and take on the glossy, malleable form necessary to make the chocolate truffles. She does it all on a granite slab, spreading out the melted chocolate like silk and gathering it back towards her using a spatula. Then it goes back into the warm copper, the process to be repeated until she declares it done. She rarely uses the sugar thermometer. She has been making chocolates for so long, she tells me, that she can simply sense when the correct temperature has been reached. I believe her. Certainly over the past 3 days I have been watching her, she has never produced a less than flawless batch. During that time, I have learned to observe with a critical eye, to check for streaks in the finished product, for the unappealing pale bloom that denotes incorrectly tempered chocolate, for the high gloss and sharp snap that are the indicators of good quality work. Truffles are the simplest to make, she tells me. Annie could make them when she was 4, and now it is Rosette's turn to try, solemnly rolling out the truffle balls across the cocoa-dusted baking sheet, face smeared, a bright-eyed raccoon in melted chocolate. For the first time, I hear Jan laughing aloud. Oh, Jan, that weakness. Meanwhile, I'm practicing some tricks of my own. It's in my interest for this place to do well, and I have worked hard to enhance its appeal. In view of Jan's sensitivity, I've had to be discreet, but the symbols of Cintiotto, the ear of maize, and the cacao bean of Lady Blood Moon, scratched under the lintel of the doorway and embedded into the front step, should ensure that our little business thrives. I know their favourites, Jan. I can read it in their colours. And I know that the florist's girl is afraid, that the woman with the little dog blames herself, and that the fat young man who never shuts up will be dead before he is 35 if he does not make an effort to lose some weight. It's a gift, you know. I can tell what they need. I can tell what they fear. I can make them dance. Had my mother done the same, she would never have struggled as she did. But she mistrusted my practical magic as interventionist, and hinted that such misuse of my skills was at best selfish, and at worst doomed to bring terrible retribution on us both. "Remember the dolphin's creed," she said. "Meddle ye not, lest the way be forgot." Of course, the dolphin creed was awash with this kind of sentiment. But by then my own system was well under construction, and I had long since decided that not only had I forsaken the dolphin way, but also that I was born to be a meddler. The question is, where to begin? Will it be with Jan or Annie? Laurent Pinson or Madame Pinot? There are so many lives here, intertwined, each one with its secrets, dreams, ambitions, hidden doubts, dark thoughts, forgotten passions, unspoken desires. So many lives just there for the taking, there for the tasting for someone like me. The girl from the florist's came in this morning. "I saw the window," she whispered. "It looks so nice. I couldn't help just looking in." "It's Alice, isn't it?" I said. She nodded, looking round with small animal wariness at the new displays. Alice, we know, is painfully shy. Her voice is a wisp, her hair a shroud. Her kohl-rimmed eyes, which are rather beautiful, peep out from beneath a mass of white bleached fringe, and her arms and legs poke out awkwardly from a blue dress that might once have belonged to a 10-year-old. Her shoes are enormous platform boots that look far too heavy for her little stick legs. Her favourite is milk chocolate fudge, though she always buys the plain dark squares because they contain only half the calories. Her colours are gilded with anxiety. "Something smells good," she said, sniffing the air. "Jan's making chocolates," I told her. "Making them? She can do that." I sat her down in the old armchair I found in a skip down Rue de Clichy. It's shabby, but quite comfortable, and, like the shop, I intend to make something of it within the next few days. "Try one," I said. "It's on the house." Her eyes gleamed. "I shouldn't, you know." "I'll cut it in half. We'll share it." I perched on the arm of the chair. So easy to scratch the seductive sign of the cacao bean with my fingernail. So easy to watch her through the smoking mirror as she pecked at her truffle like a baby bird. I know her well. I've seen her before. An anxious child, always aware of not being good enough, of not being entirely like the others. Her parents are good people, but they are ambitious. They are demanding. They make it plain that failure is not an option, that nothing can ever be too good for them and for their little girl. One day, she misses dinner. It makes her feel good, emptied somehow of all the fears that weigh her down. She misses breakfast, dizzy with that new, exhilarating feeling of control. She tests herself and finds herself wanting, rewards herself for being so good. And here she is now, such a good girl, trying so hard, 23 and still looks 13, and still not quite good enough, not quite there. She finished the truffle. She said. I made sure she saw me eat one too. "It must be so hard working here." "Hard?" I said. "I mean, dangerous." She flushed a little. "I know that sounds stupid, but that's how I'd feel. Having to look at chocolates all day, handling chocolates, and always with the smell of chocolate." She was losing some of her shyness now. "How do you do it? How come you're not just eating chocolates all day long?" I grinned. "What makes you think I don't?" "You're thin," said Alice. In fact, I could easily give her £50. I laughed. "Forbidden fruits," I said. "So much more tempting than the ordinary kind. Here, have another." She shook her head. "Chocolate," I said. "Theobroma cacao, the food of the gods. Make it with pure ground cocoa beans, chilies, cinnamon, and just enough sugar to take away the bitterness. That's how the Mayans used to make it, over 2,000 years ago. They used it in their ceremonies to give themselves courage. They used to give it to sacrificial victims just before they ripped out their hearts. And they used it in orgies that lasted hours." She stared at me with widened eyes. "So you see, it can be dangerous." I smiled. Better not to have too much. I was still smiling when she left the shop with a box of 12 truffles in her hand. Meanwhile, from another life, Françoise Laverie made the papers. Seems I was wrong about the bank's camera footage. The police got a fairly good set of pictures of my last visit, and some colleague or other recognised Francoise. Of course, further investigation proved that there was no Francoise and that her story was fake from beginning to end. The results are somewhat predictable. A rather grainy staff photograph of the suspect appeared in the evening paper, followed by several editorials suggesting that she might have had more sinister motives for her imposture than money. It was even possible, gloated Paris Soir, that she may have been a sexual predator targeting young boys. As if, as Annie would say. Still, makes for a good headline, and I expect to see that photograph several times more before its newsworthiness fades. Not that it troubles me at all. No one would see Zosie de l'Alba in that mousy little piece of work. In fact, most of my colleagues would have been hard put to see Francoise herself. Glamours don't transfer well to celluloid, which is why I never tried for a career in the movies. And the photograph looks less like Francoise and more like a girl I used to know. The girl who was always it at St. Michael's on the Green. I don't often think about that girl now. Poor girl with her bad skin and her freak mother with the feathers in her hair. What chance did she have? Well, she had the same chance everyone has. The chance you're dealt the day you are born, the only chance. And some spend their lives making excuses and blaming the cards and wishing they'd had better ones. And some of us just play the hand and up the stakes and use every trick and cheat where we can. And win. And win. Which is all that matters. I like to win. I'm a very good player. The question is, where to begin? Certainly Annie could do with a little help. Something to boost her confidence, to start her on the right path. The names and symbols of one jaguar and rabbit moon, written in marker on the bottom of her school bag, ought to take care of her social skills, but I think she needs a little more. And so I give her the huracan, or hurricane, the vengeful one, to make up for all those times of being it. Not that Annie would think so, of course. There's a regrettable lack of malice in the child, and all she really wants is for everyone to be friends. I'm sure I can cure her of that, however. Revenge is an addictive drug, which, once tasted, is seldom forgotten. After all, I should know. Now, I'm not in the business of granting wishes. In my game, it's every witch for herself. But Annie is a genuine rarity, a plant which, if nurtured, may produce spectacular blossom. In any case, there's precious little opportunity to be creative in my line of work. Most of my cases are easy to crack. There's no need for craftsmanship when a cantrip will do just as well. Besides, for once, I can sympathise. I remember what it was like to be it every day. I remember the joy of settling scores. This is going to be a pleasure. Chapter 4. Zosie. Saturday, 17th November. The fat young man who never shuts up is called Nico. He told me so this afternoon, coming in to investigate. Jan had just finished a batch of chocolate truffles, and the whole place smelt of them. That mulled, earthy scent that catches at the throat. I think I said I don't like chocolate. And yet that scent, so like the incense in my mother's shop, sweet and rich and troubling, acts upon me like a drug, making me reckless, impulsive, making me want to interfere. Hey, lady, like your shoes. Great shoes. Fabulous shoes. That's Nico. A man in his 20s, I'd say at a guess, but weighing a good 300 pounds, with curly hair to his shoulders and a puffy, screwed-up face like that of a giant baby, perpetually on the brink of laughter or tears. Why, thank you, I said. Actually, they're among my favourites. High-heeled pumps from the 1950s in faded green velvet, with ribbons and crystal buckles on the toes. You can often tell a person by their shoes. His were two-tone, black and white. Good shoes, but downtrodden like slippers at the heel, as if he couldn't be bothered to put them on properly. Still lives at home, so I would guess. A mummy's boy, if ever I saw one, rebelling quietly through his shoes. What's that smell? He'd caught it at last, his big face turning towards the source. In the kitchen behind me, Jan was singing. A rhythmic sound, as of a wooden spoon against a pot, suggested that Rosette was joining in. Smells like someone's doing some cooking. Point me to it, shoe lady. What's for lunch? Coconut truffles, I said with a smile. In less than a minute, he'd bought the lot. Oh, I don't flatter myself on this occasion that it was any of my doing. His type is absurdly easy to seduce. A child could have done it. And he paid by carte bleue, which made it the work of an instant to collect his number. After all, I must keep in practice, although I do not mean to use it as yet. Such a clear trail might lead to the Chocaterie, and I'm enjoying myself far too much to jeopardize my position at this stage. Later, perhaps, when I know why I'm here. Nico is not the only one to have noticed a difference in the air. Just this morning, I sold an astonishing 8 boxes of Jan's special truffles, some to regulars, some to strangers, lured in from the streets by that earthy, seductive scent. In the afternoon, it was Thierry Le Tressé. Cashmere coat, dark suit, pink silk tie, and handmade brogues. I love a handmade shoe, glossy as the flank of a well-groomed horse, and whispering money from every perfect stitch. Perhaps I was wrong to overlook Thierry. He may be nothing special from an intellectual point of view, but a man with money is always worth a second glance. He found Jan in the kitchen with Rosette, both of them laughing fit to split. Seemed slightly put out that she had to work. He had come back from London today just to see her, though he agreed to call back after 5. Well, why on earth didn't you check your phone? I heard him say from the kitchen door. I'm sorry, said Jan, half laughing, I thought. I don't really know about things like that. I suppose I must have forgotten how to turn it on. Besides, Thierry, God help us, he said. I'm marrying a cave woman. She laughed. Call me a technophobe. How can I call you anything if you won't answer the phone? He left Jan with Rosette then, and came round to the front for a word with me. He mistrusts me, I know. I'm not his type. He may even consider me a bad influence. And like most men, he only sees the obvious. The pink hair, the eccentric shoes, the vaguely bohemian look that I have worked so hard to cultivate. You're helping, Jan. That's nice, he said. He smiled, He's really very charming, you know, but I could sense the wariness in his colours. What about the Petit Pinson? Oh, I still work there in the evenings, I said. Laurent doesn't need me all day, and really he isn't the easiest of bosses. And Jan is? I smiled at him. Let's say Jan doesn't have such roving hands. He looked startled, as well he might. I'm sorry. I thought, I know what you thought. I know I don't look quite the part, but really I'm just trying to help Jan. She deserves a break. Now, don't you agree? He nodded. Come on, Thierry. I know what you need. A café crème and a milk chocolate square. He grinned. You know my favourite? Of course, I said. I've got the knack. After that, it was Laurent Pinson, for the first time in 3 years, so Jan says, all stiff and churchy and trying too hard in his cheap and shiny brown shoes. He hummed and hawed for a laughable time, occasionally casting a jealous glance at me over the glass countertop, then opted for the cheapest chocolates he could find and asked me to wrap them as a gift. I took my time with scissors and string, smoothing down the pale blue tissue paper with the tips of my fingers, wrapping it all in a double bow of silver ribbon and paper rose. Someone's birthday, I said. Laurent gave his habitual grunt and figured out the correct change. He has not yet spoken to me of my defection, though I know he resents it, thanking me with exaggerated politeness as I hand him the box. I have no doubt as to the meaning of Laurent's sudden interest in gift-wrapped chocolates. He means it as a gesture of defiance, indicating that there is more to Laurent Pinson than meets the eye, and warning me that if I am fool enough to ignore his attentions, then someone else will benefit in my place. Let them benefit. I sent him away with a cheery smile and the spiral sign of the huracan scratched onto the lid of his chocolate box with the pointed tip of a fingernail. It's not that I bear any especial malice towards Laurent, although I'll admit I wouldn't grieve if the cafe were struck by lightning or some client got food poisoning and sued the management. It's just that I have no time to deal with him sensitively at the moment. And besides, the last thing I want is a love-struck sexagenarian following me around, getting in the way of business. I turned as he left and saw Jan watching. Laurent Pinson buying chocolates. I grinned. I told you he was sweet on me. She laughed at that, then looked abashed. Rosette peeped out from behind her knee, a wooden spoon in one hand, a melted something in the other. She made a sign with her chocolatey fingers. Jan handed her a macaroon. I said, the homemade chocolates have all sold out. I know. She grinned. Now I suppose I'll have to make some more. I'll help if you like. Give you a break? She paused at that, seemed to consider it, as if it were something much more than simple chocolate making. I promise you, I'm a fast learner. Of course I am. I've had to be. When you have had a mother like mine, you either learn fast or you don't survive. An inner-city London school, fresh from the ravages of the comprehensive system and packed with thugs, immigrants and the damned. That was my training ground, and I learned fast. My mother had tried to teach me at home. By the time I was 10, I could read, write, and do the double lotus. But then the social services got involved, pointed out Mother's lack of qualifications, and I was packed off to St. Michael's on the Green, a pit of roughly 2,000 souls, which swallowed me up in less than no time. My system was still in its infancy then. I had no defences. I wore green velvet dungarees with appliqué dolphins on the pockets and a turquoise headband to align my chakras. My mother picked me up at the school gates. On the first day, a small crowd gathered to watch. On the second, someone threw a stone. Hard to imagine that kind of thing now. It happens, though, and for far less. It happened here at Annie's school, and for nothing more than a headscarf or two. Wild birds will kill exotic ones. The budgies and the lovebirds and the yellow canaries escape from their cages, hoping to get a taste of the sky, usually end up back on the ground, plucked raw by their more conformist cousins. It was inevitable. For the first 6 months, I cried myself to sleep. I begged to be sent to some other school. I ran away. I was brought back. I prayed fervently to Jesus, Osiris, and Quetzalcoatl to save me from the demons of St. Michael's on the Green. Unsurprisingly, nothing worked. I tried to adapt, changed my dungarees for jeans and a t-shirt, took up smoking, hung out with the crowd, but it was already too late. The bar had been set. Every school needs its freak, and for the next 5 years or so, I was it. It was then that I could have used someone like Zosie de l'Alba. What use was my mother, that second-rate, patchouli-scented wannabe witch, with all her crystals and dream catchers and glib talk of karma? I didn't care about karmic retribution. I wanted my retribution to be real, for my tormentors to be laid low, not later, not in some future lifetime, but paid back in full, in blood and in the present. And so I studied, and studied hard. I made up my own curriculum from the books and pamphlets in Mother's shop. The result was my system, every piece honed and refined and stored and practiced with only one objective in mind: revenge. I don't suppose you'll remember the case. It made the news at the time, of course, but there are so many similar stories now. Tales of perennial losers armed with handguns and crossbows, blowing themselves into high school legend in a single, bloody, glorious, suicidal spree. That wasn't me at all, of course. Butch and Sundance were no heroes of mine. I was a survivor, a scarred veteran of 5 long years of bullying, name-calling, punching, thumping, taunting, pinching, vandalism and petty theft, the subject of much spiteful locker room graffiti and a perpetual target for everyone. In short, I was it. But I bided my time. I studied and learned. My curriculum was unorthodox, some might say profane, but I was always top of my class. And my mother knew little about my research. If she had, she would have been appalled. Interventionist magic, as she liked to call it, was the very antithesis of her belief, and she held a number of quaint theories promising cosmic retribution on those who dared to act for themselves. Ah, well. I dared. And when at last I was ready, I went through St. Michael's on the Green like a December wind. My mother never guessed the half of it, which was probably a good thing, as I'm sure she would have disapproved. But I'd made it. I was just 16, and I had passed the only exam that mattered. Annie, of course, has a way to go, but with time, I hope to make something rather special of her. And so, Annie, about that revenge. Chapter 5. Anouk. Monday, 19th of November. Today, Suze came to school with her head in a scarf. Apparently, the hairdresser, instead of giving her highlights, has made her hair fall out in clumps. Some reaction to the peroxide, her hairdresser says. Suze told her she'd had it before, but she lied. And now the hairdresser says it isn't her fault, that Suzanne's hair was already damaged by all the ironing and straightening she's done to it. And that if Suzanne had told her the truth in the first place, she would have used another solution and none of this would have happened. Suzanne says her mother's going to sue the company for distress and emotional trauma. I think it's hilarious. I know I shouldn't. Suzanne's a friend. Although perhaps she isn't. Not quite. A friend stands up with you for you when you're in trouble and never goes along when someone's being mean. Friends put out, is what Zosie says. With real friends, you're never it. I've been talking to Zosie a lot lately. She knows what it's like to be my age and to be different. Her mother had a shop, she says. Some people didn't like it much, and once someone even tried to set it on fire. A bit like what happened to us, I said. And then I had to tell her the rest, about how we blew into the village of Lansquenet-sur-Tarn at the beginning of Lent, and set up our chocolate shop right in front of the church, and about the curé who hated us, and all our friends and the river people, and Rue and Armande who died just the way she had lived, with no regrets and no goodbyes, and with the taste of chocolate in her mouth. I don't suppose I should have told her all that. But it's quite hard not to with Zosie. And anyway, she works for us. She's on our side. She understands. I hated school, she told me yesterday. I hated the kids and the teachers too. All those people who thought I was a freak and who wouldn't sit with me because of the herbs and stuff Mum used to put into my pockets. Asafoetida, God, that's rank. And patchouli, because it's supposed to be spiritual, and dragon's blood that gets everywhere and leaves these red stains. And so the other kids used to laugh at me and say I'd got nits and say I smelt. Even the teachers got drawn in. And one woman, Mrs. Fuller, she was called, gave me a talk about personal hygiene. That's rotten. She grinned. I paid them back. How? Another time, perhaps. The point is, Nanu, that for a long time I thought it was my fault, that I really was a freak and I'd never amount to anything. But you're so clever, and besides, you're gorgeous. I didn't feel clever or gorgeous then. I never felt good enough or clean enough or nice enough for them. I never bothered to do any work. I just assumed everyone was better than me. I talk to Mindy all the time. Your invisible friend. And of course, people laughed. Though by then it hardly mattered what I did. They'd have laughed at me anyway. She stopped talking, and I looked at her, trying to imagine her in those days. Trying to imagine her without her confidence, her beauty, her style. The thing about beauty, Zosie said, is that actually it doesn't have much to do with your looks at all. It's not about the colour of your hair or your size or your shape. It's all in here. She tapped her head. It's how you walk and talk and think. And whether you walk about like this. And then suddenly she did something that really startled me. She changed her face. Not like pulling a face or anything, but her shoulders slumped and she turned her eyes away and her mouth drooped somehow. And she made her hair into a limp kind of curtain, and suddenly she was someone else in Zosie's clothes. Not ugly, not quite, but someone you wouldn't turn around to see twice, someone you'd forget as soon as they'd gone. Or like this, she said. And she shook her hair and straightened up, and just like that, she was Zosie again. Brilliant Zosie with her jingling bangles and her black and yellow peasant skirt and her pink streaked hair and bright yellow painted platform shoes that would have just looked weird on anyone else, but on Zosie they looked terrific because she was Zosie and everything does. Wow, I said. Could you teach me that? I just did, she said, laughing. It looked like magic, I said, and blushed. Well, most magic really is that simple, said Zosie matter-of-factly. And if anyone else had said it, I might have thought they were making fun of me, but not Zosie. Not her. There's no such thing as magic, I said. Then call it something else. She shrugged. Call it attitude, if you like. Call it charisma or chutzpah or glamour or charm. Because basically it's just about standing straight, looking people in the eye, shooting them a killer smile and saying, fuck off, I'm fabulous. I laughed at that, and not just because Zosie had said the F word. I wish I could do that, I said. Try it, said Zosie. You might be surprised. Of course I was lucky. Today was exceptional. Even Zosie couldn't have known. But I did feel different somehow. More alive, as if the wind had changed. First there was Zosie's whole attitude thing. I'd promised her I'd try it, and so I did. Feeling just a bit self-conscious this morning with my hair just washed and a little of Zosie's rose perfume on, as I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and practiced my killer smile. I have to say, it didn't look bad. Not perfect, of course, but really it makes a world of difference if you stand up straight and say the words, even if it's only in your head. I looked different too. More like Zosie. More like the type of person who might swear in an English tea shop and not give a damn. It isn't magic, I told myself in my shadow voice. From the corner of my eye, I could see Pantouf looking slightly disapproving, I thought, his nose going up and down. It's all right, Pantouf, I said softly. It isn't magic. It's allowed. Then there was Suze and the headscarf, of course. I hear she's going to have to wear the scarf until her hair grows out, and it's not a good look for Suzanne at all. She looks like an angry bowling ball. Plus, people have started going Allah Akbar when she walks past, and Chantal laughed, and Suze was upset, and now they've fallen out completely. So then Chantal spent all lunchtime with her other friends, and Suze came to complain and to cry on my shoulder, but I suppose I wasn't feeling too sympathetic just then. And besides, I was with someone else. Which brings me to the third thing. It happened this morning, during break. The others were playing the tennis ball game, except for Jean-Loup Rimbaud, who was reading as usual, and a few loners, the Muslim girls mainly, who never play at anything. Chantal was bouncing the ball to Lucy, and when I came in, she said, "Annie's it!" And then everyone was laughing and throwing the ball across the room to each other and shouting, "Jump! Jump!" Another day I might have joined in. It's a game, after all, and it's better to be it than to be left out altogether. But today I've been practicing Zosie's attitude. And I thought, what would she do? And I knew straight away that Zosie would rather die than be it. Chantal was still shouting, "Jump, Annie, jump!" as if I were a dog. And for a second, I just looked at her as if I'd never seen her properly before. I used to think she was pretty, you know. She ought to be. She spends enough time on her appearance. But today, I could see her colours too, and Suzanne's. And it was so long since I'd seen them that I couldn't help staring now at how ugly, how really ugly both of them were. The others must have seen something too, because Suze dropped the ball and no one picked it up. Instead, I sensed them forming a circle, as if there was a fight in the air or something extra special to see. Chantal didn't like me staring at all. "What's wrong with you today?" she said. "Don't you know it's rude to stare?" I just smiled and kept on staring. Behind her, I saw Jean-Loup Rimbaud look up from the book he was reading. Mathilde was watching too, her mouth open just a little bit. And Farida and Sabine had stopped talking in their corner, and Claude was smiling, just a bit, the way you do when it's raining and the sun comes out unexpectedly for just a second. Chantal gave me one of her sneery looks. "Some of us can afford to get a life. I guess you just have to make your own entertainment." Well, I knew what Zosie would have said to that. But I'm not Zosie. I hate scenes, and part of me just wanted to sit down at my desk and hide myself inside a book. But I'd promised I'd try. So I straightened up, looked her in the eye, and shot them all with my killer smile. "Fuck off," I said. "I'm fabulous." And picking up the tennis ball, which had come to rest just between my feet, I bounced it, pop, off Chantal's head. "You're it," I said. And making my way to the back of the room, I stopped in front of Jean-Loup's desk, where Jean-Loup wasn't even pretending to read anymore, but was watching me with his mouth half open in surprise. "Want a game?" I said. I led the way. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Hi, Lisa. Lisa's here.
Lisa.
Hello, Lisa.
Lovely Lisa.
Lovely Lisa. Oh, I can't hear you, my darling.
Was so satisfying.
But also, complicated feelings about, like, I don't know if this is a healthy relationship.
It occurs to me that Zosie has told Nuke to be different from the way she is naturally, in the same way that Chantal and Sue's told her to be different from what she is naturally. Not quite the same way, but there's definitely some connection there in the sort of being not who you are.
I realized while we were halfway through that, I muttered to Bracken that Zosie is just evil Matilda.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I love that. I love that. That's how I will. Maybe okay, new headcanon. Zosie is Matilda. Zosie is what happened to Matilda. Yes, come say hello.
What? Steady on now.
Yeah, if Miss Honey had taught her all about, like, identity theft.
Yeah,
maybe she got older and Miss Honey was like, look, girl, I hate to break it to you, but you're going to have to look after yourself in this world. So you're going to need to find a way to get by.
Yeah.
These are your strengths. This is what we have to work with.
Yeah, if Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood hadn't agreed to let Miss Honey adopt Matilda, if at the end of the book they'd gone on the lam to Spain and taken Matilda, and she'd like grown up in their world of like petty crookery.
Yeah, she'd been a great thief.
This is what she would have become.
Oh damn! Here come the fanfics.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Beautiful people. I know we have only been after chatting for a moment, but I think I'm going to go and crawl into bed. And I should probably wash some of this paint off myself also.
Probably should.
So I think I will say good night. Good night to you for now. Good night, my darlings.
Good night, Ketchup
Thank
Crew.
you for Ketchup.
Is that not who you were saying good night to?
I was saying good night to everybody, and including the Ketchup Crew, but then you have reminded me that we say okay. Thank you. Ketchup Crew.
Hi, Ketchup Crew.
Hi, Ketchup Crew. We love you. And
good night.
Good night.
Sorry, did I ruin your flow again? Ketchup Crew. We love you.
Ketchup Crew, fuck off, you're fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Bracken.
What Bracken said.
Bracken's coming back.
Bye.
Bye. Boop, 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 ba-doo, doo, doo, doo.
Story time.